force, never violence, and never authority, but silence, attention, emotion, and expectation. Psychology says that the human mind is not controlled by facts first, but by feelings, patterns, and unconscious shortcuts. People believe they are independent thinkers, yet psychologists explain that nearly all daily decisions are automatic responses shaped by past experiences, social conditioning, emotional memory, and environmental cues. The shocking truth is that the mind does not seek truth. It seeks safety, familiarity, and emotional comfort. And whoever understands this does not need to dominate others because influence happens naturally. Psychology says the brain is designed to conserve energy, which is why it prefers habits over thinking and emotions over logic. When the brain recognizes a familiar pattern, it stops analyzing and switches to autopilot. This is why repeated messages feel true, confident speakers feel right, and familiar ideas feel safe even when they are false. Psychologists explain that mind control does not mean controlling someone directly. It means guiding what they notice, how they interpret it, and what emotion they attach to it. Control begins where awareness ends. One of the strongest psychological hooks is attention. Psychology says whatever holds your attention shapes your perception of reality. If someone controls your focus, they indirectly control your emotions, decisions, and behavior. This is why emotionally charged content spreads faster than logical explanations. Psychologists explain that fear, curiosity, validation, and belonging are the fastest ways to capture attention. Because the brain is biologically wired to prioritize survival and social acceptance. Logic is slow. Emotion is instant. Psychology says silence is one of the most underestimated influence tools. When someone pauses instead of reacting, the other person's brain experiences discomfort and tries to fill the gap. Psychologists explain that silence creates psychological pressure, often causing people to explain more than they planned. You feel emotions or agree just to escape the tension. Calm silence signals confidence and authority, while rushed speech signals insecurity. Even if the content is intelligent, language is another invisible control system. Psychology says words do not merely describe reality. They frame it. The way something is said changes how it is received. Psychologists explain that labeling shapes identity. When a person is repeatedly described as strong, weak, smart, or difficult, the brain slowly adapts to that label and behaves accordingly. Repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity feels like truth. This is why slogans, affirmations, and repeated narratives influence belief over time. Psychology says emotions always come before logic. People decide emotionally and then justify logically. This is why arguments rarely change minds, but experiences do. Psychologists explain that when emotions are calm, their brain becomes open and flexible. When emotions are threatened, the brain becomes defensive and narrow. Fear reduces intelligence temporarily, while safety expands creativity and reasoning. Whoever controls emotional atmosphere controls outcomes. Mirroring is a natural psychological bonding mechanism. Psychology says humans subconsciously trust people who resemble them. Similar posture, tone, pace, and expressions create unconscious connection. Psychologists explain that mirroring reduces resistance because the brain interprets similarity as safety. This is not manipulation. It is biological alignment that makes communication smoother and influence easier. Psychology says consistency is a powerful mental force. Once people commit to something publicly or verbally, their brain pushes them to act in alignment with that commitment. Psychologists explain that humans fear internal inconsistency more than being wrong. Small commitments lead to larger ones, because the mind wants to protect its self-image. This is why influence often begins with small agreements rather than big demands. Habits are the hidden controllers of behavior. Psychology says most actions are not choices but routines. Psychologists explain that habits are automated programs, stored in the brain to save energy. Willpower is weak against habits, but environment is strong. Change the environment and behavior changes naturally. This is why self-control is not about force but about structure. Psychology says posture, breathing, and physical state affect mental state. A slow breath signals safety to the nervous system. An upright posture increases confidence signals in the brain. Psychologists explain that the mind and body constantly influence each other, which is why calm body language increases perceived authority more than aggressive behavior ever could. Trust is the foundation of all influence. Psychology says people do not follow ideas. They follow people they trust. Psychologists explain that trust is built through consistency, honesty, emotional regulation, and predictability. Manipulation may create short-term control, but it destroys long-term trust. Ethical influence builds loyalty, while deception creates resistance and collapse. Psychology says expectations shape outcomes. When someone expects success, the brain searches for supporting evidence. When someone expects failure, the brain highlights obstacles. Psychologists explain this as confirmation bias. What you believe filters what you see. This is why belief alters performance and why confidence often appears as competence.